So we are here in structures. So this is the third component of a code. So especially Arduino C here. So it has sketches, and then we have some control structures and operators. So those are some components of structures. So we did talk about sketches already. So sketch has two functions. So there's a setup function which is executed only once, and this is used to initialize variables and define a user-defined function and things like that. So that is setup, which is executed only once, and we have another function called loop, so which loops continuously. If you have enough power, it is going to run for years, no problem. So those are the two sketch functions, or sketch structures they call in Arduino C. So whatever program you write, there are some say we call it global variables, like which are written even about the setup function. But like say most initialization can be written here in setup, and then everything that has to be run in a continuous loop will go into loop. And we'll also see some control structures. So the most important thing about programming is, or like the most important thing we want our programs to do is test conditions. Okay, so let me give you an example actually. So we have say for example, we have a project on that, an automated street lighting system. If it is dark outside, turn on the light bulb. If it is bright outside, you turn off the light bulb. Or we can say, if it is dark outside, turn on the light bulb, else turn off. So you can use, so now you understand the importance of control structures. So that is the most important part of a code, testing conditions. And there are like other things like switch cases. So let's say you have different, for example, in a car, like you have a rotary button, like say that will set your ventilation system in different modes. So if it is a case like that, then we use switch. So one means like it's like kind of it turns on the defrost maybe, and two, maybe it forces more air to the central console. So things like that. And maybe it could also be a rotary dial, like that is used for like tuning stations. Let's say in one, like you have saved one radio station, and like radio station 2 in like 2. So when you kind of change to different values, like we wanted it to execute something different, so those are called case, like we use switch case. So there are like a lot of applications like that. So we use for statements. Say if I wanted to do something 100 times, I wanted to read a digital pin for 100 times and then stop, so I might use a for loop. So these are very important, and in this course or in this module at least, like we will very specifically focus only on understanding and like using all these things. So if you are better in like say using all these control structures, then you will easily become like very good in coding. So coding is all about control structures actually. And then we have operators. So we did talk about like say plus, minus, and multiplication. Instead of cross, we use a sign called ampersand, and then like we have the divide, and there is a function called modulus. Modulo operator is something that will return the remainder. So like when you convert from decimal to binary, so we don't we want the remainder, right? Like say if you wanted to just get that, so you can use this. So 5 divided by 2, so the actual quotient is 2, actually it's 2.5 though, but like say in this case, like it's 2 and the reminder is going to be 1. So if you wanted to just get that 1, then you can use the model operator. So likewise, there are like a lot of operators. We'll also see what other operators are available and like how we can use that for our coding. And let's move to control structures. So here we have a control structure called while and do while. So the while condition is, so let's say I have a set of statements and I wanted to execute that set of statements only if a particular condition is true. So the example we mentioned earlier, like we can use a similar condition. So if it was dark, turn on the light bulb. So turn on the light bulb is the statement. So because it is a command or an action, I will put that in the statement block. And while this condition, so that condition will be like I'm reading the brightness of the environment. So you can use this control structure as well. There's a difference between while and do while. So while is the statement blocks within while is executed only when the condition is true. In do while, what happens is it will execute at least once, so it will do it anyways. So let's say here the condition is I will turn off the light bulb anyways and then check the condition. So I am doing that anyways, and then towards the end I will use the while condition and see if the condition is true. If the condition is true, I will execute the statement blocks once again. So until the condition, or like say until the condition is false, I will keep on doing this over and over. So that is a do while statement. So that is a do while statement and a while statement. A do while is executed at least once. The statement block is executed at least once. But in a while statement, to be executed, the condition has to be true. If not, it will not be executed. It will skip and go to the next statement. And that is while, do while, if else. So here, this is a very common condition you will be using. So even like with the same example, we used if condition. If this condition is true, execute all these statements. And you can also have like multiple if loops. So you can, doesn't matter, like say you have 1 or 10 or 100, doesn't matter. So you can use if, else if, and you can use else. So if else is like very common. So if there are like only 2 output states. So if the condition is true, do this thing. If not, do this. And you can have 3 of the conditions, means say if you have 3 conditions. So if this condition is true, do this. Else, if this condition is true, do this. If both of them are not true, just do this. So it's like that. So you can use if else. This is also another control structure that is often used than any other control structure. So switch is another interesting case. So this is done with a variable. So like variable can, let's say I have 4 cases, and we will specifically talk about 7-segment display here. So for 7-segment display, switch case is like very, very important. Here, let's say I have 3 conditions, and for 3 conditions I need to execute 3 different statements. And if those 3 conditions are not there, I want to also do some default actually. So if variable is 1, it will execute whatever code is there in, or like statements that is there in label 1. If it was 2, it will execute 2. And if it was not 1 or 2, then it will execute the default. So default doesn't have to be here. If you don't want to execute anything, then just like get out of this, of these statements or this control structure. You don't have to have default. So you just execute if you see whether it is 1 or 2. If it is not either of those, then like you just get out of the loop and like go ahead with the program. So that is another control structure. And for loop is often done or often used to do something a particular number of times, actually. So, for example, so this is how it is initialized, actually. So, or like say, this is how it is used. So you start with the initialization, then like you check the condition, and then like you increment, or like it'll go in this order. Like let's say you initialize it, check the condition, and if the condition is true, execute the statement, and then go ahead and increment. And then you will check the condition again. And then if the condition is true, execute it, increment, and check the condition. Execute the statement and then increment. So increment here we often use, here this is how a usual or like a common for loop will be. So I equals 0, I is less than 5, I plus plus, and this is how a usual for statement is. Or a typical for syntax would be something very similar to this. So for the first time, it'll initialize I as 0. It'll check the condition. So I is less than 5. Yes, the condition is true. So then it'll execute the statement. It'll go here. I plus plus is a shorthand representation of I equals I plus 1. So the value of I is 0 and you add 1 to it. So now the value of I is 1 and it will check the condition. So I is less than 5. Yes, because it is 1 now. It will execute it, go and increment again. Now the value will be 2 because I is 1 plus 1 is 2. It will check the condition. Yes, it is less. It will execute again. It will go back, increment. The value will be 3. It will execute again. Likewise, it will increment, check the condition. It will do all those things over and over. And when I is 4, it will go and increment. Now the value will be 5 because 4 is the value of I plus 1 is 5. It will go and check the condition. Condition will be I less than 5, but it is equal to 5 now. So the condition is false. It will not execute these statements. It will jump out of the control structure and then start executing whatever is left actually. So this is for. So you will specifically use this if you want to do like say if I wanted to do something 100 times, 1,000 times, a specific number of times. So then like I will use this control structure. There's something wrong there. Okay. So there are like say other structures here. So there are like say hash define, which will define the value. So if you remember like the way we define constants where like we used to say integer pi equals something, so that's how we do, but like we can also use define. We use hash include. So hash include is used to include a header file. So we'll talk about header file like later in this chapter. So like you don't have to program everything. So someone who has programmed already can create some functions and like put them into some header file, and then like you can download that package and then like you can include that to your program and use those functions. So there are like some options like that. So that is those are like part of structures too. And comment is a very important thing here in coding, because when you write a code and when you share it with your peers, or like say in a project like you might work with like say 10 different people, and you do a work and people don't usually understand. You might have coded with a different logic and not everyone will understand right away. So you usually explain what it is, and it has to be besides the code. So for that, like we use this comment. So what this comment is used for is it is just giving some information to the reader who reads your program. This will not be executed. So there are like two ways of adding comments. So if you're using multiple lines, then you can use this type. So a backslash asterisk and asterisk backslash. So like say if you have 3 lines, so you start with that and finish it with that, then like it'll, as soon as the program comes here, it'll see, okay, this is not needed, so it will not execute these things, it will not compile it, and then like it will move to the line after this, after seeing this characters. And if it was just single line, just like add 2 backslashes, and then it will ignore that line and go to the next line. So that those are some other structures that are available. And operators. So this is another thing. So arithmetic operators, so these things we have already seen, what they are, what they do. So, and apart from that, like we have some comparison operators. So these are very important for control structures, because when we write a condition, we write it based on these. So not equal to. So sometimes if, if a is not equal to 1, then do something. Or if a is equal to here is 2 equal to sign is equal to, because just 1 equal to sign is a assignment operator. It just assigns whatever is on the right to the left. But here, if you wanted to really check a condition, so is really I equal to 5? If it returns true, a Boolean value, then it means they are equal. So I had a value of 5. So something like that. So here are other comparisons. So these are often used in control structures. And another thing used in control structures often is the Boolean operator. So what this Boolean operator does is, let's say if you wanted to check 2 conditions. So the first condition is I is not equal to 0, and then j is equal to 5. If both of these conditions are true, then perform something. So if you wanted to do that, then you can use AND, which means if the first condition is true and the second condition is true, it will execute that statement block. If not, it will not. So that is Boolean operator. And we also have pointer operator. So we will talk about GPS and things in the next module. But again, I'm not going to ask too many questions on that. But like that is just for people who are curious, who wants to explore more things, and like say more gadgets. So they can use that. Like there we'll be using some pointer operators and things like that. So these pointers are nothing but we are referencing to the location, to the place where it is located on the memory. So let's say here, let me give you an example. So if I wanted to say call you, I can call you by your name. There's another way of calling you. So let's say you live in Halifax, so-and-so address, and your PO box number or something like that. You have an address, right? So I can also call you by that address. So, okay, I wanted to meet this person who lives in this address. So that is a pointer. So we actually go to the physical location where the information is resided, and then we bring that back. So that's why we use ampersand sign and asterisk actually. So this is a reference operator and this is dereferencing operator. So this ampersand will give you the address, it will return the address. So if I say ampersand and your name, and then it will bring the address back. And if I use asterisk and add the address, then it will let me know who is that. Like say it'll bring the value of you. So maybe your name actually, it'll bring your name to me. So things like that. That is pointer. Again, like we will not be using much of these, but still it is very important to understand these. And there are some compound operators. So we already talked about increment operator. So plus plus is equal to, so here again, so x plus plus, this is used in for loops often. So which is same as x equals x plus 1. So it is just compounded. So when you say X modulo operator equals Y, it is same as saying X modulo Y and just assign that value to X actually. So these are some operators. In the next video, we will talk about serial communication. And then again, I know we talked about a lot of concepts. We didn't really get into do some hands-on programming yet. But again, if you didn't understand or if this was like too dry, you will, as soon as you get into IDE and start programming, you will get all these things. And I would, even at this point of time, if you didn't get anything, straight away progress to the, just proceed to the next video. And once we do that, if you wanted more clarification, come and watch back this video again to get like more clarification. Okay, see you in the next video. We are going to talk about USART, serial communication in Arduino.